I'll try and make it short because you've been sitting for a long time, so I won't make this discussion boring. I'm not going to introduce any of you because I don't think you need any introduction. You're all, personalities that everybody is aware of, and your contributions to the fields in which you are in. The topic, of course, is information, the relevance of information in today's India. We have one former Supreme Court judge, Justice Oak. We have a person who has been a director, a producer, an actor. He's done everything possible in the media, and some of his movies that he directed will be remembered for years to come for the paths that they have broken in the field of cinema. We have, in fact, we were supposed to be joined by N. Ram, but he felt sick in the morning. So I asked Siddharth, I said, you have to do me a favor. And he's very kindly agreed, so thank you very much. And of course, who doesn't know Siddharth and his contribution to bringing data and information at the doorstep of people. But Justice Oak, let me start with you. One thing I'm very concerned about, and that's troubling me. There is no post in India, government or otherwise, where a citizen cannot challenge the capacity of the person to be on that post, or for any other reason that he is in the terms of the rules, in terms of the statute, he is not entitled to be on that post. He doesn't have the qualifications. But that doesn't apply to a judge. One second. That doesn't apply to a judge. And the reason why it doesn't apply to a judge, and rightly so, that if you start questioning the appointment of a judge, it will destroy the independence of the judiciary. So that was kept apart under the Constitution, because once a warrant is issued and he becomes a judge, you can't challenge it, right? The purpose behind it was the independence of the judiciary. Now, if the process for appointing a judge is not transparent, if we do not know who is going to come to the Supreme Court, who is going to be the Chief Justice of India, we are not aware of what is the criteria for promoting him from the High Court to the Supreme Court. What's the basis of his becoming, in the future, a Chief Justice of India? What are his qualifications in the context of the quality of his judgments? What is his background? What are his political affiliations? If none of this is in the public domain, it destroys the very purpose for which the post could not be challenged, namely independence of the judiciary. So if you actually appoint a wrong man, it destroys the independence of the judiciary. And pardon my saying so, we felt a little bad about some of the appointments. What's your response to that?
Mr. Sibal, firstly, in principle, you are right, but I want to go further. We are talking about judicial appointments. One correction, in May 25, now the entire process, how Collegium functions, what is the criteria, that is not public domain. Now the question which is very often asked, and I think you mean the same thing, whether citizen of India has access to that record. Now what is that record? The record is form filled in by a candidate, a lawyer who is invited by Chief Justice of the High Court to accept the post of High Court judge. Then there are remarks by the state government. Then there is IB, very detailed IB inquiry, that is also on public domain. Then there are views of the central government. So all this comes before the Collegium. Now the question is whether a citizen of India should be given access to these documents. Strictly going by the constitutional principles, a simple answer can be yes, it has to be given. But we are concerned with the independence of judiciary, and I want to make good by giving examples. Now, look at what information is furnished by a lawyer who is invited to become a judge. I was the Chief Justice, I was part of Collegium of the Supreme Court. I want to tell you, and especially some of people who are not part of legal fraternity, now it is a task for Chief Justice of a High Court to convince a lawyer having good practice to become a judge. One of the most fundamental reasons is that after Supreme Court Collegium clears the appointment, it takes 9 months, 10 months, or even more than that. So nobody wants to take that risk. That is number one. Because the fact of the matter is that the moment Collegium resolution is uploaded, the work stops. A lawyer remains without work for 10 months, 11 months, 12 months. So today we have a scenario where at least some of the good lawyers are reluctant to say yes. Now, if you see those formats, when a lawyer's name is recommended, he has to give his income for last 5 years. There is a format accompanied by a chartered accountant certificate. Question is, when somebody is willing to quit practice and become a judge, everybody knows the consequences of that, practical consequences, I am saying that. I don't feel that it is a sacrifice. It's a great honor according to me. Now, should we put this on a public domain? I'll give one example.
No, sir, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm not talking about that at all. What I'm saying is that the process of assessment of the quality of the individual who is to be appointed must be such that it is thoroughly investigated before an appointment is made. Now, you have in England, for example, a whole commission that is set up. That commission doesn't consist only of judges, it includes people who are non-judges, in fact, non-lawyers as well. And there are processes through that commission which recommend. And the Chief Justice of India, Chief Justice there, the Lord Chancellor can't go behind it, right? Here, you're right about what you're saying, and I agree with you, but that whole process is lacking. The result is if you make a wrong appointment, what happens is it destroys the very independence which you're trying to protect. That's the worry. I agree with you, his income should not be in the public domain, but that's not the point. You say that you're going to follow this standard within the Collegium. Do they follow that standard? They don't. We know it. They pick up people, and some of them are favorites. And the problem then is that you have the wrong man on the job. And this is a free discussion. Any of you can actually also contribute. You end up with people losing faith in the system. That should never happen. But that should be the primary objective of those who actually appoint judges. I'm afraid, I can tell you, I've practiced here for 52 years. I'm worried that those processes are not quite right.
Mr. Sibal, look at this. We are thinking of question of elevating a practicing lawyer from High Court as a judge of the High Court. Now, I ask a question to myself, what can be the criteria? Criteria can be a man of character and integrity, sound knowledge of law, reasonably good practice, and a justice-oriented approach. Now, can this criteria be reduced into writing?
No.
And tick marked?
No.
So ultimately, it is three judges, senior-most judges of the High Court, the Chief Justice and 2 other judges. They have to evaluate performance of a lawyer because they see that lawyer day in and day out.
They're not influenced according to you by anybody.
That's what I'm coming to that.
Yeah.
The problem lies is, in principle, this can be the only possible good system, that because those judges who hear the lawyers day in and day out, they assess it. Perhaps we are going wrong in one aspect, that the judges who assess, they may not be performing their duty correctly. And therefore, what you say, that there are appointments which are not deserving, I'll put it that way.
So let me put it another way.
And I want to add one more point here. Yes. Now take a case of elevation of a service judge. Now there the criteria is there, you have to assess his judgments. There's a judgment assessment committee. Judgment assessment committee assesses judgment. There are other committees which assess the ACR and other reports. So there is some process.
I'm aware. Let me put another, because I've done some research on it. If you look at ever since the last 20 years, you will find that 50% of the judges who are appointed to the court, in the High Court, are people who are representing the government in court, right? Represent the government. They're public prosecutors, or they are standing counsel for this organization, that organization, government, Delhi government, whatever. Now, how does a lawyer come on the panel? I'm telling you that now, let's be very candid. This is the whole idea of this program is that lawyer goes to the politician and says, my thought processes are like yours, why don't you put me on the panel? Then he's on the panel, so he appears every day. And then the Chief Justice or the Collegium in the High Court says, look, this fellow has been practicing here for such a long time, and he is part of the panel, and he should be appointed. Now, if 50% of the judges are from the panel, you can imagine what impact it has on our judiciary. It's a worrying thing.
So it may be a matter of statistics that those who are appointed to High Court, 50% of them represent state, either central government or state government.
Yes.
But I want to share something with you. I was also a member of the Collegium of Bombay High Court. We were instrumental in shortlisting about 10 good lawyers. Out of 10, 9 said no. This is one issue which has to be addressed. Why lawyers say no? Are they afraid of undergoing this process and exposing themselves to uncertainties? That may be one reason. The other reason is perhaps the legal profession has become most lucrative profession in India. And therefore, by the time you practice for 20 years and when Chief Justice calls upon you to accept judgeship.
Our chief guest had a lucrative practice and he accepted
so many
judgeship.
So many of us. But now the gap has widened.
I agree with you.
So when we consider this, and you are right in criticizing that 50% of them may be government law officers.
Because they are close to the political power.
But then if people who should be accepting judgeship are refusing to accept judgeship, then we have to go one step down.
Right.
And maybe there we may be compromising on quality. I'm not saying no. But this is the area where we'll have to address.
I think we need a lot of...
We must get quality. And how do we get quality?
Information.
I don't want to rest here. Let us talk about direct appointment to district judges. You see the statistics of all high courts. In one process, all posts are never filled in. You have to repeatedly conduct processes so that you can fill in the vacancies. And in this process, you may be right in saying that somebody who is not that deserving gets appointment.
No, I've been finding this happening far too frequently.
You are right. You are right.
Let me move on to something different. Mahesh, you've been in this business for a long time, and I've seen that, the cinema is perhaps the most powerful mode of influencing people. In fact, Satyajit Ray once said that the cinema is like a mirror which reflects the society with its scars, society with its problems, right? And if you try and sanitize it, you destroy the very concept of cinema, right? Unfortunately, I've been seeing in the last many years now, 10 years, 11 years, 13 years, there's too much interference by the censor board, too many problems that they have to face. The tribunal has been done away with since 2021. And the term of the court was to be 3 years, ended in 2020. They are continuing. One man is controlling the show. And a lot of movies are going through hell. For example, Punjab 95 has not got certification till date. Why? Because they want to remove the name Punjab from there. And how do you view all this?
You spoke about dark times, Sabal Sahib. I'm afraid that the truth that we are in the business of entertainment is not allowing those dissenting voices to even begin to say what they want to say. And what frightens me is what's happening to writers, filmmakers who dare to think differently. There's a thing called pre-censorship. A thought surfaces in me to lock horns with the establishment. And then I nip it in the bud because I fear the backlash. There was once a time when I stood up and said things which were irreverent. I had people in the fraternity of the media, the mainstream media, the legacy media, which would back us up. Somebody would take our side but that dissenting voice is finding itself isolated. And the businessmen today, unfortunately, we have lost those filmmakers who had that gambling spirit, who were ready to jump off the cliff for an idea. They were so consumed by the passion. Now, algorithms, everybody wants to play it safe.
Now it's AI.
Yeah, and so I think my concerns are that as it is, we were toddlers. Those very few movies could stand up and speak about things which were playing out in their day-to-day life. And those who dared to speak were isolated, and then they were made test cases. Look what happened to him. And then there would be wisdom dished out to you saying that you want to say something so passionately, write a poem, write a book. It's too expensive a business.
I see.
And then you are so vulnerable, the outlets through which you want to show your content are unwilling to even touch you with a barge pole.
Because funding is the issue.
Everything comes down to funding. So I would say that my concern is that, you see, there's not one day that the catastrophe hits you and things change. It is a slow strangulation. There's a politics of silence. And the very nature of mainstream entertainment business is to get maximum accolades, attention. And ever since we stepped into what this digital age, and there was social media, the power of the establishment to muzzle you up, to gang up and go after you, is so enormous that you are a voice in the wilderness. And you are actually going out to quote numbers, and even before you begin, you're crushed. So I would say that these are dark times.
Let me put it a little differently. Despite the fact of what you said that these are dark times, you have a movie like Udta Punjab doing exceptionally well. You had a movie like Parched, women of Gujarat, expressing what they have done with their lives, talking about the men in their lives, how they are dealing with them, how they are dealing with society. So you have some really good stories, Lapata Ladies, you have Panchayat. That's all now on the movie circuit, so to say. So in a sense, and the cost of these movies is not much. In fact, one of these movies was produced only 3 crores and the person made 6 crores out of it. Right? So there is that other cinema that's happening and doing quite well, but away from the mainstream cinema.
Yes, there is. I mean, I must say this, I remember in the year 1998 when the NDA was in power and Mr. Vajpayee ji was heading the government, he was the Prime Minister. I had dared to make a film called Zakhm, which was autobiographical to a certain extent,
Yes.
and also dealt with the post-Babri Masjid demolition carnage. Now, it got cleared by the committee which scrutinizes the film, but my chairperson, a very reputed senior actor, for some reason felt the need that it should get cleared by the bosses in Delhi, because perhaps she didn't want to be seen as facilitating a dissenting narrative. And then I had to lock horns with the establishment for 3 months. But I stuck to my guns because I believed in that film.
Yeah, but those were the 80s and the 90s where you were doing
98,
all
I'm
this.
talking about when Mr.
Vajpayee,
Vajpayee
but
was
even
there.
earlier when you made those films.
Yeah, but there were times. But see, what I'm trying to say is, I did not buckle down. I locked horns with the establishment. I made them see my point of view. And they conceded. And what's very important for the audience to know is, in 2003, I had a screening of the same film in Pakistan, in Karachi. Mr. Musharraf was then the president. Indian films were not allowed, but the young kids made it possible to have a festival. Sybil Saab, it got a standing ovation, and I remember walking up and saying, it's only a country like India which can make a film like this, which celebrates our plurality. That plural space has shrunk. When you paint the rainbow only in one color, it ceases to be a rainbow. Human life has always been turned into a story. How can you reduce the stories of 1.4 billion people?
There are billions and millions of stories out there.
Just one story. Yeah. And that is the tyranny of the times, is to reduce it to one story. And that's when, as you said, that when you hold the mirror to these times, you don't have much to say. As Solzhenitsyn said, if you want to find out how the nation's soul is performing, look at its arts.
That's true.
And I don't think we have much to boast about today.
There's a recent entry of Homebound for the Oscars. And the producer of Homebound said that, look, I had to cut 5 scenes before they cleared it, which I didn't want to cut. But I had to do it, otherwise it wouldn't have gone.
So see, now what you're saying is exactly, now that gets amplified in the industry. Look what happened to him. Look what happened to him. And then having locked
actors are also targeted. That's the other problem.
Yes, the actors are then vulnerable, and they have their image, which is dependent. It lives on the oxygen of popular mandate. And the popular mandate is manipulated.
No, but at a time, I remember when Mrs. Gandhi was in power, you had Andhi, you had many pictures. Many of these movies were against the establishment, and there was no problem at all.
No, it's not true. There was problems even way back then.
No, but they were cleared and they were seen. And people, for example, Nasbandi was another film.
No, I would say that even now, if you really believe in the content, and if the producer believes in the content, you will be able to make them see things. Because I remember Zakham was locked.
Zakham was
but it got a national award.
Yes, it did.
For best film on national integration.
That's
so
correct.
You must give it to them that they did give me trouble, but then finally there was within that space a space created where you could make the others see your point of view.
No, but you now had films like the Udaipur Files, the Kerala Files.
Well, we all know that is a narrative which is being backed by the establishment, and there are people.
Is that right? Is that right, you think?
Well, I do not deny them the right to do what they want to do, provided they give me the same right to do what I want to do.
That's the point. But the judiciary, how does the judiciary view this, Justice Oak? I mean, the judiciary always been for free expression and all that. But unfortunately, it doesn't interfere in any of these kind of films. This is also a problem.
There may be recently few cases, and you may be right in criticizing that. But still, I'll give one example. I don't know whether you heard about one very famous drama in Marathi which got translated into not only Hindi, many other languages. Sakharam Binder.
Yes, of course, Sakharam Binder. I've seen it, yes.
It was banned by the government. Ultimately, court interfered. Correct. And now it came on the world stage. But courts are not doing enough. I mean, I agree with you.
But a lot of these actors in Hollywood, most of the actors are coming from theater. A lot of them were people who were in theater and then became, whether it's Laurence Olivier or many others like that, Richard Burton, many others like that. They came from theater. We've lost that here also. Some of them used to come from theater, but not anymore.
Because theater doesn't sustain.
There is no real theater.
Yeah, because you can't live in a first-class city with the income of a theater. Even regional cinema, I was recently in Bengal, I met a very senior actor who said you can't make a Bengali film and live in Kolkata because you can't afford their lifestyle. So I think why do people come to what is called to Mumbai? It's because they feel that if you get work here, there is an economic stream that will flow in, which will give you a lifestyle, which will make.
But also, there are not enough enough cinemas in India. For example, it's about 10 cinemas to a million, where it's 30 in China, and it's more than 50 in the United States of America.
Yes.
That's the other problem.
Yeah, there is, but and then we have the malaise of the streaming content, which is
That's the other problem.
and they are timid. They don't want to lock horns with the government. They feel that they are businessmen and they don't want to do things which makes them look unpopular. And if you go to them with any contentious content, you have problems. And so, loudest whisper is, don't play ducks and drakes. This is too much money. There's too much money here.
Don't take
You
the
want
risk.
to say something which is very irreverent, and you want to take the establishment on, write a book. Even that will have problems to get published.
Or do the wire.
Or do the wire and
Let's move on to you now, Siddharth. You know what's recently happened with mainstream media. You know, what's the cause for it? I mean, why are they doing what they are doing? Is it because government advertisements represent 25% of their revenue? Is it they are afraid of, or is it the industrial, political, and media nexus which is at play? What's the real reason for all this?
I think to answer your question, we need to take a step back and identify a common link between the state of the judiciary, the state of mass entertainment, and the state of mass media. And the common link is that you have a government governed by an ideology that wants to control how people think, what people say, what people read, how people love, what they eat, what they wear, how judges decide cases.
No, I don't agree.
What kind of movies? No, I mean, what kind of movies are to be made? What kind of books are to be made? And they have found a wide variety of ways to have their way with each of these sectors that are represented here in the state.
One judge.
It's a miracle. It is a miracle. It is a miracle that Justice Oak made it to the Supreme Court, frankly, because the problem is not just how judges are selected, but good judges often find themselves shunted off, right?
Well, that's what I was trying to provoke him to say
Well,
something,
I mean,
but he's been very
you have
diplomatic
Justice
today.
Shakdar in the hall here, Justice Muralidhar, Justice Akhil Qureshi, judges who took a stand and decided cases based on what they thought was right and wrong. It didn't go down well with the establishment, and they were shunted away, right? So, and similarly, movies don't get released, directors get blackballed, actors get blacklisted, and in the media, which is the question that you asked, some media proprietors have, are part of the dark side, quite frankly. They either have an ideological or political affinity with the ruling establishment, or there are very strong money interests that are involved, or you have people who are highly risk averse, who perhaps have involvement in different industries where the license permit Raj continues to operate, so the government has 101 ways of putting pressure. Or you have, you had an independent TV channel like NDTV, which was the one channel that was able to report things professionally, and it gets the
But
owner gets pushed out.
Influence used to happen even earlier. It's not as if it's happening only now.
There is no comparison. I mean, of course, there was pressure.
Yes, there was.
On judges, on movie makers, on journalists, always. There's always been pressure.
That's correct. That's what I'm saying.
But the qualitative and quantitative difference today is manifest.
I see.
In the sense that the way in which pressure is applied, the way in which media proprietors have backed off. So today you don't have a single television channel that's worth watching.
Defamation cases.
Well, defamation cases was old technology, right? when the wire, when we started, we were hit with a whole raft of defamation cases, and lots of colleagues in the media have had to deal with this. Going back, I mean, when I became editor of the Hindu, Jayalalitha slapped a criminal defamation case on me and others for stories that we did. So that's the old tactic, right? What's new now is the filing of sedition cases,
Yes.
the filing of terrorism cases, the criminalization of journalism by freelance reporters. You know the case, there was a reporter, Jaiswal in Uttar Pradesh,
Yes.
did a story on how in what I forget the name of the district, but midday meal got reduced to chapati and salt. And a case got filed against him. He spent, weeks, months battling those charges. So the criminalization of journalism has gone well beyond just defamation. And, so Siddiq Kappan spent more than 2 years in jail.
Yeah.
You have colleagues in Jammu and Kashmir who have, spent time under UAPA, under PSA. So this is, nothing that we have seen in the last 70, 80 years, and I'm saying this with a great deal of responsibility, compares to the kind of pressure. Now, the government can turn around and say, as they do, that, oh, the Wire is publishing, you are free to publish, so this means there is nothing wrong, right? And I accept that. Of course, we publish. And we publish whatever we want, and we do it with a great deal of responsibility. But the way in which cases are filed, you see, it's the randomness. So you don't, one Siddiq Kappan, one Fahad Shah, one Sajjad Gul is enough to have a chilling effect on a very large number of journalists across the country. Right. So you pick out one journalist who's a freelancer and say your story on midday meals is going to become a criminal case. You then, force every freelance reporter to look over her shoulder when she's going to file a story that may be critical of the CM or the DM or even an SP, right? So this, this is the state of the media today, and this is the state of all of our, they don't want people, and you said this is about information. They don't want people to get information about what is happening in this country.
But they were getting information when Operation Sindoor happened. They were getting information that Karachi has been attacked and Lahore has been captured.
I asked, I was in a situation where the Wire got banned for we got taken off we were blocked for 24 hours. Right. And, I invoked my right under the IT Act. I said, look, you have to give me a hearing. Yeah. So you did this, I demand my right to hear. So a hearing was convened. And I think I'm not allowed to share all the details because this is a confidential process, but mota I'll tell you what happened. That I said, look, you have blocked the Wire for putting out a story, for reporting what CNN said about the downing of a Rafale. CNN story is available. The whole world is talking about it, and you blocked us.
That way, Trump's statements are also available.
But that came later, right? But I said, you have TV channels that are filing patently false information. And I said, secondly, the Rafale story of CNN was never denied by the government of India. So the people of India don't, as far as they're concerned, you haven't denied it. So why should we take it as a false story? But the claim that Karachi has been bombed, the claim that Indian soldiers have crossed the line of control, these are patently false stories. You did nothing to stop that. These are stories that actually, if you talk to any military person, they will tell you that this actually puts the Indian armed forces in harm's way because you're fabricating stuff which is giving the other side an excuse to then escalate.
So you're manufacturing information.
Exactly. And no action is taken despite the fact that they have all these laws where they can act. And so I asked these gentlemen, I said, look, how come you didn't take action? No answer. No answer.
But you have a broadcasting code which says that, look, if you cross this line, action will be taken against you. And most of them cross that line, and yet no action is taken.
The action that they took. Let's look at. I mentioned our case. They tried to ban a channel in Kerala, Media One, Malayalam channel, on grounds of national security. No reason given. I think the High Court...
The court came to your help.
The Supreme Court finally came to the help. In our case, when they filed a sedition case under BNS against Karan Thapar, myself and a couple of other people, the Supreme Court gave us protection from coercive action, at which point the Assam police lost all interest in the case. So the courts at the highest level are, taking a stand in favor of free press, and coming out against this kind of coercive action. But, there are far too many cases, and the lowest court, see the first court where a journalist knocks, right? The district court, the sessions court, they are, very rare to see them rule against the executive.
That's true. That's true. No, but okay, let's put it differently. Justice Oak, see, there is a common thread that runs through all this, and the common thread seems to be that in these times, information is not relevant. It's what you put out in the mass media that's relevant, and that becomes information. And that's why we are having this discussion. That's why I gave my talk, that unless you have data and information, which is relevant, which is appropriate, you cannot ever find a solution. And you keep on giving this kind of information and feeding it to the public, you will never be able to find a solution to anything. And this is really the malaise that runs through the institutions that we're talking about, whether it's the judiciary or it's cinema or it's the media.
Can I just respond to the first question you asked me? Rightly, you raised a concern based on your experience of 52 years about the quality of some of the judges. Or perhaps you had objection to certain recommendations, correct? There is another angle to it. Go back to 1973 when Keshavananda Bharati and the supersession took place. Supreme Court Bar Association acted on the same day and protested.
Yes.
Go back to Bombay in 1990. Both the Bar Association passed unanimous resolution.
But there is no bar today that's worth the name.
No, I want to add something. Yes. 1990, you know that resolution? The things have changed. I want to give example. We talked about my dear friend Justice Akhil Qureshi or Justice Muralidhar. I want to give one more example, not because politicians from Karnataka are here. There was one recommendation made from Karnataka to Karnataka High Court, which I personally feel even today, he would have made one of the best judges we had. His name was reiterated, appointment did not come. He withdrew his consent. Not a single bar association protested. I want to say, individually, the president of Bangalore Bar protested. Nobody protested. Nobody protested when Justice Akhil Qureshi was not given a chance. Now, this is one more aspect which we'll have to consider. Bar, which was so active.
Yes, I agree.
Now, nobody protested.
That's right.
Now, here is
but they're worried too, because they think that if they do protest, it will give them a bad name. They have to appear before that judge every day or that court every day. That may impact them. And so nobody wants to take a risk, just as the middle class of this country doesn't want to take a risk. Nobody wants to take a risk.
No, Mr. Sibal, in late 90s, Bombay Bar passed resolution.
I know, but the country has changed, sir.
Now, therefore, what I am saying is, everybody wants good judges. Bar wants good judges. Civic society wants good judges. But nobody is doing anything. Nobody is protesting.
See, the only institution that can save the future of India is an independent judiciary.
And the faith in that institution has crumbled.
And unless you do that, we are going to be in difficulty. And there the media and the mass media must play a role as well. Right? In fact, there is a recent movie, I've forgotten something about justice, where the director is actually investigating the lawyer and the judge, because a Dalit, it's about a Dalit who has been prosecuted for abetting suicide. And in that, he's prosecuted in court, and delays after delays, and they start saying something about the judge and the lawyer. I think it's time for us to do that also. We must bring real stories before the people of this country as to what is happening. And unless that happens, because it is that information that will actually convince mindsets.
I think, Sibal Sahab, that's something that Advaniji had said during the emergency, that the media was asked to bend and they began to crawl.
Right.
And I think even now, if there are people, filmmakers, who really believe in a story and they have a producer who can take the leap of faith. But unfortunately, we don't have outlets now. We don't have cinema halls, nor the streaming platforms who are willing to stick their neck out.
And now they're going to have laws which actually
control streaming. So you are stuck. Also. So why do you want to make this film? Where are you going to see it? Are you going to see it at home?
Your last comment by you.
No, I'm saying that there was the famous BBC documentary that got banned.
Yes.
Unless we step up play our role, learn to ask questions, learn to focus on and provide information to citizens, I don't think Indian democracy is going to
No, Indian democracy
the dark
will
times
be-
that you talk of.
India's democracy will be fine. I don't have any problems with that as long as there are people around who will fight for the rights of those who are silenced. And
Yes, there was this
we
country-
all here, all
Yeah,
four of
yeah.
us here.
There was
done
always
it,
this country,
and
sir.
many of those sitting in this audience will do it, I'm sure. Thank you very much for all of
Thank
you
you.
participating in this discussion.